Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geeky Geezers. I'm your host, Aged Boomer. This is my co-host, Pacelli.
Hello.
Uh, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine. I'm a bit tired. Been doing some spring cleaning and whatnot. How about yourself? You've sound like you've had a day.
Yeah, we're back in the house that's still being worked on, but like I said, maybe this will be an experiment. We'll see how it goes tonight. Okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, at least you're back in the house. Although, if it's still being worked on, that's got to be a challenge.
All right. So, yeah, welcome everybody. Let's say hi to the chat. Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated.
Yes. Hello to the chat.
All right. D Pensec, welcome.
Prepare for the might that is the Geeky Geezers and those that follow them. I hope so. Yeah.
Thank you. I got it. Hi, sweetie, from Netter. Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. I love you too, sweetie.
All right. Welcome, Big Al. Have a great stream. Big Al celebrated his birthday recently.
Happy birthday. Happy unbirthday now.
Deleted Scenes, welcome.
Hail the
I didn't catch your pre-show, but I will later. Always check out Deleted Scenes pre-show if you get a chance. All right. Rose Fire. Howdy and good evening, everyone. Haven't seen a live stream in a long time. I'm so excited to be here.
And we are so excited to have you here. We have missed you, so I'm glad you're back.
All right. Chat meant to say live stream. It's okay. We know what you meant. All right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Kind of a weird news week, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, Horizon Talker. Hi there, Horizon Talker. Didn't want you to miss anybody.
Horizon Talker, welcome. All right.
Yep. Yeah. It's been a week. I just peeked behind the curtain for everybody. Normally I do the notes and the thumbnail for Boomer, but this week he was doing the whole shebang because I've been dealing with installing a new computer and getting it up and running. Still not 100%, but I am much better than I was. So there we go. But yeah, and it's been a busy week. The week before a holiday means that day you're going to get off. No, you gotta get all that done in advance.
It's the opposite where I work. You have to make up for the day off by the day after the day off. Things are busier.
Oh, okay,
More books to put on the shelf. More patrons come in because they weren't able to come in the prior day. So but it comes with the territory.
I get that. Sure.
All right, but yeah, I don't know though. I don't know how many people we're getting in here right now. But
keeping in mind it is a holiday weekend, so
it is. They might be out doing things.
Yeah.
So let's see, what do we got here? So, I figure we can talk about the good old days.
Yeah, I think that is always a great way to start out, right? Because we got a lot of crappy news to talk about. We got a lot of stress from the week. Stress from the weekend, and maybe we can decompress with memories of a happier and simpler time.
Yes. So I was thinking we could talk about Willow.
Willow, yes, because
that'll probably be the last time we're going to talk about
the
Willow.
1988 Lucasfilm presentation that has never had a sequel and never will.
Well, so your original thoughts on Willow, were you excited when it was coming out, or were you annoyed because we were getting another Star Wars movie?
Yeah, I kind of felt like, hey, get on those prequels that you promised, all those years ago in Bantha tracks. But I still went to the theater to see it. And yeah, it was okay. It was really hard for me to get too terribly, annoyed, with what was basically a pretty good movie. This was right around the time I was watching other films like, the other fantasy films that were one-offs, one-offs or should have been one-offs, right? Like The Never-Ending Story, Princess Bride, stuff like that. So when I saw this, I'm like, okay, this totally fits with that. I
Like
did
Labyrinth or
Labyrinth, sure,
Conan,
sure,
Excalibur, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
exactly, and I felt like this may not even have been as good as some of those films that we listed, but it sure wasn't bad. I didn't think this was up to like Star Wars level. Wow, yay! But it was good, you know.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good little adventure movie. Did you? Not a lot of known stars in it, I think, except for perhaps Val Kilmer. I think he was the big draw, right?
Yeah, I think for Star Wars fans, I think all of us knew we were going to see Wicket, you know, out of his Ewok costume, you know.
Good old Warwick Davis, who I
Right.
guess at this point was what, late teens, early 20s,
He
maybe?
was a kid, yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah,
was
yeah,
a
yeah.
kid.
And I don't know. I remember seeing it. It was like the big movie of that year. I forget what year was that. Was it 87?
It was 88.
88. Remember seeing it this summer, and it was, I don't know, I thought it was a summer blockbuster, a good adventure movie. I did notice that I guess it didn't do so hot. Is that I mean, were they considering a box office flop? What was the big scuttlebutt about that?
Oh, I don't know. Let's take a look. Let's see if I can find box office stats for you on that. I honestly don't recall. Let's see. So production. Oh wow, yeah, they go into all the details. But Willow was released to mixed reviews from critics. On the review aggregator Rotten Tomato, 53% of 59 critics reviewed it positively with an average rating of 5.9 out of 10. That's not that great. Let's see. It was shown and promoted at Cannes in '88. It was released May 20th. Wow, there you go. Earned 8,300. No, I'm sorry, 8,300,000 in its opening week, placing number one in the box office. Lucas had hoped it would earn as much money as E.T., but the film faced early competition with Crocodile Dundee 2, Big, and Rambo 3.
I saw Crocodile Dundee 2 on the big screen.
Wow, yeah. Grossed 57.3 million at the box office in the U.S. and Canada. It was a blockbuster hit. It was not the blockbuster hit insiders had anticipated. The film opened in Japan in July and grossed 16.7 million, and it in its first seven weeks, MGM's highest grossing film in Japan at that time. Was it distributed by MGM?
Yeah, it was an MGM release back in the day. Yeah,
It
a line
performed.
and everything.
It performed well in other international markets, grossing 80.3 million for a worldwide total of 137.6 million. Strong home video and television sales added to its profits. Now, what I don't know, because obviously, most of the fluff sites wouldn't have this kind of deep dive financial information that you could get at Valiant Renegade Online and WDW Pro. I have no idea if it made a profit at all, or But I mean, that sounds like a lot of money in 1988 dollars.
Yeah, it did get a book sequel series. I know that. Of course, I guess that's not canon anymore, but
yeah, I'd say. Well, I would argue that it is, and if we talk about Willow later tonight, we can get into what we are going to consider and what we aren't going to consider canon. It's going to be a little tricky.
Now there was a toy line based off of Willow that came out.
Yeah, which I had absolutely no idea about. I was completely at a loss on that.
I know that they were not your typical action figures. They were already pre-posed on stands. And I remember there was some criticism at the time because they weren't like the usual Star Wars or G.I. Joe style figures.
That's kind of killer. And in fact, in the toy communities, you look for synergies, right? Anytime people will talk about changing of scales, you know how you went from the 12-inch GI Joe to the 9-inch Mego figures to the 3 3/4-inch Star Wars figures, right? And in each one of those lines during that period of time, you could think of a bunch of others, right? So GI Joe was 12-inch. And that's when you got your $6 Million Man. You had Barbie. You had, you know, all the fashion dolls that were, you know, Barbie knockoffs, like, you know, the Cher doll and the Farrah Fawcett doll and so forth. But then once Mego came out with those 9-inch figures, you start going to G.I. Joe comes down to the Super Joe, you know, 9-inch figures and, you know, that whole line and whatnot. And then once Star Wars hit, well, that was it. Battlestar Galactica, Tron, you know, everything came out in 3 3/4. If you have a figure line that doesn't fit with your competition, it better be damn popular and start a new trend, because otherwise people aren't going to get it. So, for example, LJN had a problem with putting out figures that were too big for that 3 3/4-inch. Not all of their figures, mind you, but like when we got around to some of those Indiana Jones figures that were like 4.5 inches tall. Now suddenly you have an Indiana Jones and Marion that aren't in scale with Han Solo and Princess Leia. So you can never ever, you know, put them in the same diorama and play with them together. I know, adult enthusiasts might say, well, why would you want to put those together? You got to think like a kid playing with toys, though, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, to quote another movie, remember the movie Big that came out that summer?
Yeah.
There was an argument he was making about how, you know, you guys ruined this. This line of toys was so much better before you changed them. And the guy was like, you know, the kids did. And he's like, yeah, I didn't think about that. Because, of course, Tom Hanks was a kid
Right.
in a man's body, so could relate. This is why the kids don't like this stuff. And then I think the CEO of the corporation was thinking, yeah, he got a point there, you know?
Yeah, but nowadays you don't even need to pull in a kid in an adult's body. You could just go to YouTube and watch any of the toy vloggers, and you want to hear a smoking review of the most recent, you know, for example, Indiana Jones figures. Check out Retro Blasting. He bought one Indiana Jones figure and he just kind of rips on it. He's like, look, you had better quality here, you had better quality there. And, you know, a lot of people talk about the Star Wars figures too, where, yeah, sometimes they're better than previous releases, but sometimes they're just not. And it's like, what were you thinking? Yeah, so I guess that's a long, you know, winded way of getting to. Those aren't action figures then. Those are there's little statues is what they are. Not a lot of play value there, and the kids are not going to enjoy them. That's why they didn't sell very well. Big Al's got a set of them, but
they might be worth something now.
I'm guessing probably not.
Well, that's because, the name doesn't have the cachet. We'll be getting into that later. But I remember there were some video games based on Willow. I think there was a computer game that came out, which I never played, but there was an NES game that was a lot like The Legend of Zelda, which makes sense that you would make it like that. There was an arcade game made by Capcom as well that a lot of people liked. Yeah, it just kind of came and went. I was expecting Willow to become like the new Star Wars or Indiana Jones, and it just kind of deflated after that first movie. I thought they were setting up a sequel, and I mean, as a standalone movie, I think it works fine. But
yeah, I mean, and if you compare it to, like, for example, you know, another Lucasfilm, you know, entry of like Howard the Duck, this was definitely a better film. And don't get me wrong, I still do kind of like Howard the Duck for what it was. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it's another one of those standalone films. Howard the Duck, we were never really expecting to get a sequel. I don't think most people were really expecting a sequel to Willow when it came out, and I don't think anyone was terribly disappointed or asking for one, you know, years later. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not, and I think that's just what it is. I noticed that Willow was always something that would come up in conversation. People either loved it or hated it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where the hatred came from. I used to think growing up people just didn't like. There's some people out there that just had an aversion to heroic fantasy, which obviously isn't true because the Lord of the Rings movies were huge hits that came out later on. Obviously.
Yeah, that does seem. I mean, that almost sounds to me like when I hear people talk about superhero fatigue. No, I think it's just quality of the film. It's always going to come down to quality of the film, whether or not people liked it, whether or not it grabbed a hold of you. And I don't care if it's sci-fi, fantasy, western. If the story is there and you love the characters, you'll come back again for those characters. If you're like, that was fine, pass the popcorn, then maybe not. Especially if something else is at the theaters that you want to see more.
But I remember being a kid seeing, this was like the first time you had I think with the exception of maybe Conan or Excalibur, but even those, they were not like, I want to say they were fantasy, but they weren't like a fantasy world with different races and dragons and things like that. I mean, this had a full-scale fire-breathing dragon in one scene, I mean, This was something I hadn't seen before in a motion picture, and there were little things that, like those little stones he had that he could throw and turn to stone, and I think it worked a couple times, but everyone made fun of him, saying, "Oh no, it's a like the slur for his race, and that was peck." And it's
peck,
like, And Matt Mordigan says, there's a peck with an acorn pointed at me, and it's.
But I got to admit though that I really did. As far as storytelling goes, that's actually pretty good. Somebody who doesn't really have a great deal of magical abilities, but maybe one day he will. He's starting out, it's a good start for a character. This idea that they weren't born powerful yesterday. Imagine that, but. As Boosh McFadden is pointing out that the special effects, at least in Willow, were definitely better than Mazes and Monsters when it comes to fire-breathing dragons and things like that.
Well, that's the thing. You had Industrial Light and Magic going full on with this movie, and it was. I don't know. I remember as a kid being delighted by it. I thought it was a fun summer movie.
It was.
Even the brownies weren't that annoying. The brownies, they were the comic relief characters.
You know what? Those brownies, I forget what the actors' names were. I'm sure someone in the chat.
British comedians, probably, or were they?
I thought it was Lenny and Squiggy.
Oh, that would have been funny if it was.
I swear to you, I thought it was Lenny and Squiggy. And then I found out that the taller of the two, the one that, obviously I thought was Lenny, turned out he was the stand-up comedian. I'm watching his stand-up routine, loving his show, and he mentioned something about having played, one of the brownies, and I'm like, wait, what? And then I had to do a little digging. Of course, this was back before IMDb, and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah,
yeah. What
Kevin Pollak. And Rick Overton was the one I definitely wouldn't have remembered. And that was Kevin Pollak. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Rosevar says, I love those 80s fantasy films because they were one-offs. The story opened and closed in one film, so you didn't need extensive background knowledge on the fantasy world. True enough. And that always helps. I don't like having to do homework before. We were making a comment the other night on Troy's channel. We were watching the original Star Wars. And everything you need is right there. It's all explained.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that opening scroll is a little bit of a exposition dump. But it's the only exposition dump you get. All the other exposition comes from very logical, dialogue and just single lines sometimes, And that's why I've always said we never needed a prequel, because we got enough information to go forward with, and our imaginations could fill in the past.
Yeah. Well, definitely, yeah. I mean, we could figure it out, and of course you would wonder what happened beforehand. You let your imagination do the work for you. And if you listen to the radio show, you got a little bit of it before. Not a ton, but a little bit. Willow was strange but fun, sword and sorcery, and Val Kilmer as Mad Martin chewing up the scenery. I think it was just a tad goofier than I wanted, or maybe that was all intention all along.
I
mean,
think
there
it
were comic
was.
moments.
Yeah.
It's that typical George Lucas.
I do think that the intent was to be a little bit less intense and a little bit more friendly.
Yeah. The best thing about Willow was the score by James Horner. Excellent score
True.
James Horner in that movie. So, I don't know. I had fond memories of it. I think when Lord of the Rings came out, people were like, Willow what? That kind of happened when we finally got the Lord of the Rings movies. But for the time, it was your only big budget fantasy epic, really. I mean,
And that speaks to the market, right? It kind of speaks to the market today as well as back then, because back then, you did get a lot more, I guess you'd call them IPs that weren't based on anything, right? Star Wars was completely original. Willow was completely original. I mean, or they were based on something that no one had ever heard of. Princess Bride and Neverending Story and stuff like that. It's like, I'd never heard, of those before the movies, right?
well, they were probably cheap to get the rights for because they were still, I mean...
Yeah, exactly.
Even animated features like Last Unicorn, that was another one. But Lord of the Rings was quite different from 80s fantasy, sword and sorcery, almost barbaric atmosphere, and both worked in their own style of entertainment.
Yeah.
Well, I keep imagining, though, if they had done Lord of the Rings in the 80s, it probably would have had that atmosphere.
Yeah.
They probably would have gone, maybe it's best if they waited on that. I mean, I do like that styles most of the time, but... yeah, but I'm trying to think, though, back to Willow, though. I do think that Willow, though, was kind of... I don't want to say it was trying to be a Tolkien-esque thing, because I think that's a bit of a cheat. But you had your halfling stand-in.
But if we're fair, though, that's George Lucas is as much as said that's what his intent was. So just like you can compare Star Wars to Flash Gordon,
right.
you can compare this to Tolkien. Yeah,
Willow
absolutely.
to Lord of the Rings, yeah. But I think that's all I've left to say on it. I still like the movie. It's been a bit diminished on recent events, but soon those recent events will be washed away if they haven't already been, and we'll talk about that later tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any last words?
No.
Oh, Rosefire wants to know what you are watching or what you're reading right now.
Oh, gosh. The only, and I tell people this all the time, you guys are pretty much watching all the movies I watch, because it's either, on Big Al's channel or Netter's Network, or I'm doing a rewatch of something on Fridays, but not very often. I usually leave that to them. And I don't foresee seeing anything, new anytime soon with the writer's strike going on. But what am I reading? I have gone back and started rereading. I just finished Han Solo at Star's End, and I just began Han Solo's Revenge.
Now, are these EU books post the Thrawn trilogy, or were they written before?
They were written way before. I think they were written before Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, wow. Oh,
yes, this was in that Splinter of the Mind's Eye era. This was the early EU.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. I am not watching anything, actually. I'm not reading anything currently. I did start the first episode of the Gremlins animated series just to see if what all the hullabaloo was about, so I'll get into that later. But
yeah. I've only heard a little bit about it. I haven't heard a great deal of talk about it, but I'll tell you what I've heard.
I got you. Okay. So, Han Solo trilogy was great stuff, and Blue Mask were fun characters, okay?
Yes! In fact, I'm working on putting together a Blue Max custom figure, if Hole in the Wall or someone else doesn't beat me to it.
And Netters says, I'm reading Adega Outlaw's Blood Witch. It's fantastic.
Yeah. The only reason I'm not reading it is because she took my copy.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to both be reading the same book at the same time. But, she's going to be having a Dega on, I think, this week. And they'll be talking about that.
So we do have some sad in remembrances tonight.
Yes, we do.
So we'll start with. I mean, they're both big, but one's. Well, let's go with Tina. We'll start with Tina Turner.
Okay.
Tina Turner. Go ahead. I'll go. I'm pacing since you don't like my max version of a Word document.
It's not that I don't like it. I just cannot read it. I
It's
got it.
supposed
And it
to
was a
convert
blank
to
screen.
Word.
I mean, it comes up and says it's in Word, but
Oh, we
my
send you the
systems
PDF.
aren't reading
We'll
it.
just
Yeah.
we'll just do this. I used to do these anyway. Tina Turner, legendary rock and roll singer, was 83. Yeah. So here we go. From Deadline, Tina Turner, known as the Queen of Rock and Roll for her blistering performances and powerfully gritty vocals, died today after a long illness at her home in Küsnacht, near Zurich, Switzerland. She was 83. With her, the world loses a music legend and a role model, her UK spokesperson, Bernard Doherty, said in a statement. Turner was diagnosed with intestinal cancer in 2016 and underwent a kidney transplant in 2017. Born Anna Mai Bullock on November 26, 1939, in Nutzbush, Tennessee, Turner became famous in the late 1960s as the singer of the Ike and Tina Turner Revue. After leaving husband Ike Turner in 1976 after years of physical and emotional abuse, she staged what remains one of the greatest comebacks in pop music history, scoring massive hits in the 1980s such as What's Love Got to Do with It, Private Dancer, and The Best, with an estimated 180 million albums sold worldwide, 12 Grammy Awards, won and sold out stadium tours around the world. Beloved and widely influential, Turner was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2021 as a solo act, 30 years after being inducted with Ike. Her life story was told in the 1993 smash hit film What's Love Got to Do with It and the 2019 Broadway musical Tina, the Tina Turner musical.
Yeah. She definitely was well celebrated in her lifetime, which is, I think, more than a lot of people that deserve it, actually get.
Yeah.
But I think she was probably one of very few artists that, I'm hearing her in the 80s, and my mom is like, oh my gosh, that's Tina Turner. You know Tina Turner? Oh yeah, through the '60s, her and Ike, and Rolling on River, and da da da. And, that was my mom's kind of music. She really liked it, so it was something we had in common. Another one that I can think of is Cher. Cher did the same thing,
If you want to see a young Tina Turner performing, they actually have a snippet of her singing in the documentary "Gimme Shelter," which was the Rolling Stones. It's from the perspective of the Rolling Stones in the Altamont concert. A bit of a mess, but you can see there are actually some clips, and like there's some new singer opening for the Stones, like it's Tina Turner.
Yeah,
and it's like I was like shocked. I'm like, that's Tina Turner, isn't it? When I saw that in the documentary. But
and something that my wife says all the time. That woman had legs for days. Yeah, she had great legs. I mean, even into as far as I saw her in public, appearances and whatnot. She. Yeah. Age was not affecting those gams. Let me tell you.
She was the antagonist in Mad Max Beyond
Thunderdome. Yeah, where she also had the release single. Yep.
Yeah. What was the title of that?
We don't need another hero. Beyond Thunderdome.
Hero. We don't need another hero. That's right. Yes. And she also did the title song for Goldeneye, the first James Bond movie with Pierce Brosnan in it, and that was an excellent.
Right. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. That's right.
And I'm just trying to think though. One thing I did like about her role in that Mad Max movie is that you expect at the end she's going to kill him.
Yeah.
Because he foiled her plans, but then she's like, "I'll see you around, Raggedy Man." Because I thought that gave her character a bit more depth. That she's just kill him, So just let him go.
Yeah.
But deleted scenes. Gimme Shelter is an intense watch. It is, because that was like the anti-Woodstock that concert. Yeah. But if we're gonna miss Tina Turner, Queen of Rock and Roll, I think that fits. I'm not going to argue that.
And maybe on another day we can revisit her videos because she had some great '80s videos. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I will do that. I'll dig up Golden. Let's see if she did. I'm sure she did a video for GoldenEye. I should look it up.
Yep.
All right. Another. Unfortunately, we're not ending with the rest in peace. And I'll say this: Tina Turner. Sad to see her go, but I feel she did live a full life. I think.
And I do know that she had some terrible health problems towards the end. And when they finally released her cause of death, it was like natural causes. And I'm like, well. When I know how many things she was struggling with, could have been any one of them. Take your pick, It could have been her kidneys, could have been a heart attack, it could have been, anything. But whatever, I mean, it really sucks when you got someone suffering. But just gotta enjoy and remember the legacy she left behind.
So next up is, unfortunately, Ray Stevenson. This came as a bit of a shock to me. Ray Stevenson, actor in Punisher, Warzone, RRR, and Thor films, dies at 58. I know him from, of course, Punisher, Warzone, but he's been on a lot of other things. He was on HBO's Rome. You had seen that. And let me go ahead and do the pasting in here. Yeah, Ray Stevenson, actor, dies at 58. Ray Stevenson, the Irish actor who starred in films like Punisher, Warzone, King Arthur, and the Thor films, and shows like HBO's Rome, and the upcoming Ahsoka series on Sunday in Italy. Variety has confirmed with his publicist he was age 58. No cause of death was available. Italian media reported that he had been taken to a local hospital while on the island of Ischia. Born in Northern Ireland on May 25th, 1964, Stevenson began his career appearing on TV shows in the 1990s, then began landing action roles in Hollywood films starting in the 2000s. His first major film role came in Antoine Fuqua's 2004's adventure movie King Arthur, where he played Dagonet, one of the Knights of the Round Table. In the film, his character sacrifices himself in battle to help Arthur, Clive Owen, and his Brotherhood of Warriors. In 2008, Stevenson was landed a starring role in the Marvel film Punisher Warzone, where he played the titular mercenary, aka Frank Castle. The film was distributed by Lionsgate in North America before Disney acquired the rights to the Marvel Universe and later reintroduced the character in the Netflix series Daredevil. It always makes me feel weird about these Netflix series, because are they truly Disney series?
Well, they own them now, so I guess.
But they didn't feel like it, because it was really anyway. Stevenson was the third actor to portray the Punisher on screen. Dolph Lundgren first played the vigilante in a straight-to-video release in 1989, followed by Thomas Jane in 2004's R-rated Punisher. Warzone was a PG-13 reboot of the series. What? Look that up for me while I read. If you don't
wait, repeat that last line.
Punisher, it says Punisher Warzone was a PG-13 reboot of the series. Could you please look that up online?
I actually think that's right.
No, I can't believe. I'm going to keep reading. We'll get into it later. But it fizzled at the box office after earning $10.1 million from a $35 million budget. John Bernthal later took up the mantle in Netflix's Daredevil and the Punisher shows. In the 2010s, Stevenson appeared in action movies like The Book of Eli, G.I. Joe Retaliation, Three Musketeers, and franchises like Marvel's Thor. Okay. Apparently, he was in Lionsgate Divergent adaptation. So, yeah.
Okay, here you go. The film was set for a September 12th, 2008 release, but was pushed back 3 months to December 5th. A teaser trailer was released on June 12th. On July 25th, Harry Knowles of Ain't It Cool News wrote an article claiming that Lexi Alexander had been removed as the film director. A second trailer was released to the public at San Diego Comic-Con the same day. Alexander did not make an appearance at the convention, which caused speculation from some fans who attended the film's panel to question whether her name would be taken off the film. On August 15th, website Latino Review reported that Lionsgate would be editing the film to receive a PG-13 rating. The director of photography, Stephen Gaynor, later claimed the film will be R, and that Alexander is still on board the project. On October 3rd, IGN confirmed that Alexander was not fired from the movie based on the official statement they received from Lionsgate. In December, Alexander confirmed that she had serious battles with Lionsgate, but denied that she was ever officially off the film. My name was never off, nor would I want it taken off, nor did I ever get a pink slip. The truth is that we had probably the same discussion that any other film has. Despite the much publicized discourse, Alexander says she's extremely happy with the final film. But yeah, it does look like it ended up being PG-13. Yeah, there is also a... Alexander points out she didn't have final cut privilege, so yeah. So there you
But
go.
there was an unrated version. I know what I saw was not a PG-13.
Oh, I'm sure when it was released on DVD, it probably did come out with.
I don't know. Deleted scenes is saying this is very weird. Maybe it was. All I remember is I remember the commercials for that, and it was funny. It was like it was basically that movie. I would argue Dark Knight came out over the summer. This is like a B movie version of the Dark Knight. That's what the Punisher Warzone reminded me of. But great fun. I know some people Thomas Jane fans. That's fine. I actually happen to like Dolph Lundgren, but I did like Punisher Warzone. I think best out of all the Punishers, but movies at least. But they're all good. They're all worth checking out. Wouldn't mind seeing Thomas Jane reprise the role too, but that's probably not going to happen. Actually, it'd be funny if Dolph Lundgren reprised the role. Remember at the end of the first movie, he said, "Okay, kid, live a good life, and if you become a criminal like your dad, I'm killing you too." I think he said that to the kids, and I imagine the kid's now a criminal, and then get old Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher.
Oh, yeah, but I'll be honest with you. I mean, I actually didn't know Ray Stevenson as the Punisher because obviously I was fixated on Jane's, and that's I know that technically Warzone is a sequel, but it barely has any connection to the previous film. And then when Jane's comes out and does Dirty Laundry, I mean, it's like, okay,
I have another movie with Jane called Give 'Em Hell Malone. Is that right?
That I don't know.
Almost like a Punisher type movie that he made after that. I don't know why Jane wasn't in the sequel. It might have been a schedule lineup or something happened. I don't know.
Yeah,
because they were going to use Jigsaw in the sequel for the Jane movie, and then they were going to do if they did a sequel to the Warzone, it was going to feature Barracuda as the villain, but they didn't end up making a sequel to that. I don't know. It's sad to see Ray Stevenson go, though. I did like him in parts. He was tough British dude, or Northern Ireland. I guess that's still British, right? So yeah. He will be missed. And apparently, who's he playing in Ahsoka? Is that a character from the Thrawn trilogy?
No. Some people are speculating that perhaps he is the rejiggered, stand-in for Jareth Sabaoth. But that's entirely fan speculation. There's nobody knows exactly what's going to be going into that movie. Honestly, at this point, I don't think even Lucasfilm knows.
Right.
But yeah, as far as the Ahsoka thing goes, he's got a different name, and not much is really known about him. And I don't know how far into Ahsoka, if it was all in the canon, it's wrapped, or what the situation is. So it'll be interesting to see how that ends up working out too.
Yeah. Okay, but rest in Tina Turner and Ray Stevenson.
Netter's saying Thomas Jane was the best as far as Punisher goes. She really liked the first Punisher and the Dirty Laundry or whatever it was called.
I think all three, even the Lundgren version, I think all three are worth checking out.
Oh yeah.
Just check your expectations at the door as far as this is going to be. I don't want to say they're B movies, but they're these violent. I guess to be fair, I think the Jane version is probably the closest you get to
Yeah,
this ability, but even still, no.
I
It's
agree.
you have the one guy, the singing assassin in one scene.
The way I see it, we have had 4 live action Punishers, and I've liked them all.
Yeah, yeah. Even the one on Netflix was good. Yeah, but
It was excellent, actually. I think.
yeah. So here we go. It's your last chance to see how bad the new Disney Plus Willow is before it's gone for good. This is a Forbes article.
I laughed so hard about yes, and that's what's important. This is a Forbes article. This is not your Hollywood,
Real media.
exactly. This is a dispassionate financial rag.
Yeah, so here we go. From Eric Kane. Things aren't good over at the House of Mouse, despite having some of the most popular and profitable franchises around, from Marvel to Star Wars to the whole Disney princess thing. The company has faced major losses in recent years thanks to no small part to streaming expenses. One part of the company's strategy to cut 5.5 billion in operating costs is to take a more strategic and sober approach to streaming content. Disney CFO Christine McCarthy said that going forward, we intend to produce lower volumes of content in alignment with this strategic shift. McCarthy also noted that a number of shows and movies would be removed entirely from both Disney Plus and Hulu in order for Disney to write off asset losses in what's known in accounting as an impairment charge. In other words, these shows and movies are worth more dead than alive as a tax benefit to Disney. This almost reminds me of the Batgirl situation.
Well, I kind of laugh at that because what did you say it's known as in the industry? It's back up a sentence.
Back up. Hold on. Let me get back over there. What's known in accounting as an impairment charge.
Yeah, in colloquial speak, it's known as looking for change in the couch cushions because you want to order a pizza.
Oh, that means they're really not doing well. They're
no. Yeah, I'll say more about this after we get through the article.
We're starting with one company not doing so hot and a company probably doing worse at the end of the stream. So here we go.
Well, yeah.
We are in the process of reviewing the content in our DTC service to align with strategic changes in our approach to content curation, McCarthy said during the company's post-earnings call. I take it, Willow, they have to still pay money to people if it's on streaming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Well, there's and this is interestingly, this kind of goes to what the strike is all about. Is this whole thing about residuals in relationship to streaming and stuff like that. And I don't know what their contracts say, but yeah, there's probably partly that. But I think there's more to this idea of the valuation of what they have on their streaming a platform. I think is the more key thing to look at here.
Yeah. As a result, we will be removing certain content from our streaming platforms and currently expect to take an impairment charge of approximately 1.5 to 1.8 billion. The charge, which will not be recorded in our segment results, will probably be recognized in the third quarter as we complete our review and remove the content. One of these shows being accessed is the brand new Willow series. This is brand new.
Yep.
This came out in the fall, didn't it?
Yeah.
Memory serves? Okay. A live-action sequel to the 1980 Lucasfilm film movie. That movie has become something of a cult classic, but never spawned any cinematic sequels until last November when the series premiere dropped on Disney+. There were books, games, and whatnot, but Lucasfilm never did turn Willow into a franchise. More's the pity. As a huge fan of the film, I was extremely excited for Willow the show. Warwick Davis was on board. One of my all-time favorite childhood films was finally getting a sequel. If only it had been made in 2002 instead of 2022, sure, the CGI wouldn't have been as pretty, and it wouldn't have come out on a streaming service, but it might have actually been decent.
Yeah.
It might have actually stuck to the themes, aesthetics, and spirit of the original film instead of being a show about teenage love triangles peppered with modern rock music. Just typing that sentence makes me physically ill and honestly a bit angry. When I heard that Willow was being cut from Disney Plus entirely, I thought, this is what you get when you fail this completely at something.
Yep.
When you make political agendas more important than telling a good story. When you utterly ignore who your actual audience is. Truthfully, the last time I was so disappointed and angry by a sequel was when I saw The Phantom Menace in theaters as a teenager, which, come to think of it, was not long before my theoretically 2002 Willow show. So maybe not. Maybe Lucasfilm would have botched it back then just as badly, though for different reasons. Maybe this was always doomed to be a one great movie, and maybe that's just fine. Of course, it didn't have to be that way. We've just heard mixed messages from its writers. John Bickerstaff calls Disney's moves absolutely cruel on Twitter. Showrunner Jonathan Kasdan takes a more sanguine approach, saying he's kind of into the decision. It's very old school not to be able to find what you want to watch. But here's the thing. Had they written and produced a show that was as good as the original, that even felt like the original and was geared toward fans rather than the teen soap opera crowd, this could have been a hit. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. In any case, if you want to see how bad Willow is, you have until Friday. On May 26th, dozens of shows and movies are being culled. That's tomorrow, by the way. Get on it. Yeah, you're past due. If you have not watched the Willow series yet, it's too late. Unless you sail the high seas, as it were.
Yeah, which I suppose is an option, but honestly, folks, it ain't even worth the bandwidth. Here's the thing. I get what he's saying, because we have, even just this past weekend, I was talking about how when you saw Star Wars in the 70s, unless they re-released it at the theaters, you didn't really have many options to catch it. But it was in theaters for a very long time. They did re-release it. It did come to cable finally. It certainly, when physical media became available, it started coming out. But there you go again with the physical media, right? Mm-hmm. Disney's not releasing this stuff on physical media. If it's gone to their D-, then it's not coming out on physical media. So it's still behind a paywall. So my question, going back to what we were saying at the top of the show, how canonical is this? Seriously, is it more canonical than the books? Because honestly, if you didn't see it, you can't see it, and you'll probably never see it again.
It's done. Willow is done. That's why I had us do the good old days Willow at the beginning of the show. I'm not sure if we had done that in the past. I don't think we did.
I don't think
was
so.
Basically just, no, we're done with Willow. It's not coming back. It's over. It's done. Dead and buried. This was its last chance to resurrect it, and they failed miserably, and good old Jonathan Kasdan thinks this is going to become some kind of cult classic.
Yeah, well, it's going to become maybe as much a cult classic as, well, not even as much as the holiday special for Star Wars. Same thing. That ain't canon either, folks, because you can't get it legally. It's never been released, and they don't want you to ever see it again. Well, that's the fate that this crap show is getting.
Wasn't Forbes also the website that called out Disney for firing Gina Carano? I believe they were, yeah.
Yeah, because they don't have a dog in the hunt. They're going to call it the way it is.
Oh, they're probably having to pay a license fee to MGM, aka Amazon now. Oh, I can see it. Wouldn't it be funny if, Amazon secures the rights back to Willow and makes a horrible Amazon series based on Willow? I'm kidding.
Well, I'll tell you, this is... The hits just keep on coming over there at Disney. And anyone telling you otherwise is either willfully ignorant or just believes the hype. Because they're in some serious trouble. So those of you that follow, WDW Pro, Valiant Renegade, Midnight's Edge, Mikey the Mexican Iron Man, he knows his finances. And he's been talking about all of this. And he's going, that Hulu deal that everybody's talking about, Disney don't have the capital for it. And they may not be able to raise it. So when I say that they're looking for change in the couch cushions to order a pizza, they're looking for change in the couch cushions to try and possibly try to buy Hulu. And it's not because they want to, it's because they may have to. They're being pushed into it. There's a little leverage thing going on there. I don't know all the details. I'd point you towards those videos, but those other channels. But yeah, all and for those that are out there saying Disney's too big to fail, nobody is too big to fail. Okay, ask Arthur Anderson. What if they were too big to fail? If Enron was too big to fail, Pan Am, were they too big to fail?
If Disney keeps bleeding money at this rate, I wonder if someday they'll have to sell off Marvel and or Star Wars, as Pacelli has said. Never too big to fail. I think probably the first thing to go will be a lot of these 20th Century Fox properties. That's what they'll unload first.
Yeah,
like Alien and Aliens and that sort of thing. They'll probably dump those.
This usually I'm pretty good at predicting things like this. I've told you I've got a circuit of friends around me that keep saying Troy was right again. Troy was right again. This time I can't make a good prediction because there's a lot of wild cards at play here. Because the business is doing so badly, the stock price is going down, 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 and now some people are starting to buy up those stocks. So we may get a very drastic change in who the board members are in the next year or two.
Interesting.
So there could be some big changes. But in the meantime, yes, there could be some sell-off of assets. There could be some... Look, Iger isn't going to be around much longer. I mean, his contract is only for, another year or two? But I wouldn't be surprised if the board doesn't start pressuring him. So there's going to be a change in leadership one way or the other. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing. Don't anybody get your hopes up. That could actually make things even worse. But, yeah, Disney is not looking at, fair skies anytime soon.
Yeah. Heaven's Gate brought down a studio, and that was only one film. Yes, it's happened before. Cleopatra almost destroyed. I forgot what studio it was. Was it Fox at the time?
I think so.
I think, what was it, Breakfast at Tiffany's saved them. I think Cleopatra was, and it's funny because I would
kind of makes you wonder why anyone would ever want to make a Cleopatra film again, right?
Here's what happens. Back in the '60s, it was studios were still stuck on doing these big epic movies. Like, you kind of started with the biblical epics, but they started having Roman epics, and they were big on doing the big budget musicals. And then they started to not do so well. Then you get into the '70s where they basically allowed, okay, these auteur directors like Scorsese and Coppola and everything, we're going to give them, we're going to let them do what they want because they seem to know what they're doing, like with stuff like The Godfather and
I can guarantee you, Boosh.
And then you have Heaven's Gate, which was an auteur movie, and it did horribly, and it sank a studio. And that ended kind of the auteur era. And then we got into more of the '80s blockbuster era. And
to Boosh's comment, I can guarantee you that is not what's going to happen. Because just look at what's going on with the whole Florida thing right now. And the response that people are having. I don't think there's anyone in government that wants to wade into that. Yeah, they are going to stay the hell away from it and not get involved if they want to get reelected or elected, whatever the case might be.
Part of the problem is I don't know how bad things are over at Disney because everything's covered up by shills in the media, also by people at this company. Maybe there's some, maybe they're like, for instance, I don't know how this Little Mermaid movie is doing. Maybe it's doing fine. Maybe it's not doing fine. I can't tell right now from articles I've read. I'll probably have a better idea next week.
I've got a couple videos on my watch list that are looking at the first weekend, and so I haven't had a chance to look into that yet. But I'll tell you this: I really believe that there's something going on with their books over there, and I think we're going to be having a very different conversation either next year or the year after. We might be talking about them the way we talked about Enron. That's my prediction.
Anyway, I think the least of it, though, before they get a bailout, they'd have to sell. And I don't think they will get a bailout. I think what you'll see is you'll just see them selling off property.
And that's the other side of it. They ain't getting a bailout if there's some shenanigans proven in court. And there's a bunch of court cases where that could very potentially happen. So this could go as bad as things are for Disney right now. They could get way, way worse. And it's more likely than not that that's the way things are going to go.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like I said, would they ever sell Lucasfilm? Who knows?
What would they sell it for? What do you think it's worth?
It'd be funny if they would sell it back to George Lucas for half of what he sold.
He would, yeah, that's just it. If they were going to sell it, they would take a loss on it. First off, it was what, 4.5 billion or something that it was sold for, and analysts say that was overinflated. It wasn't worth 4 billion at the time. Now we have inflation too. You know, it ain't worth that much, and they have so desperately devalued it. Who's going to buy it for? Star Wars? Yeah, no. Star Wars is and Star Wars is the best case scenario if you're an investor. Willow? Fuck no.
No.
Indiana Jones? Fuck no. What else you got?
Well, they had all those.
Howard the Duck? That's the only thing they haven't ruined?
Well,
how valuable is that property?
Well, technically they own that anyway because of Marvel.
Actually, yeah, that moves over to Marvel. Yeah, that's not really a Lucasfilm
Lucasfilm
thing. Yeah, it was a license. So yeah, that's their Marvel brand.
I doubt they'd sell Marvel. They're probably going to still try to figure out a way to wriggle money out of that. I don't think they would try to sell Marvel. So I think Marvel's under Disney for a long time.
Marvel and Star Wars still make money in the marketing. Not obviously nobody's buying DVDs. Nobody's clearly nobody is streaming. They've been losing millions of viewers. Yeah. So the only thing they've got is toy sales and backpacks and crap like that.
Well, the problem is no one's buying DVDs of The Mandalorian because there are no DVDs of The Mandalorian.
Exactly. They need to start putting out anything they can to make money. You know, for every Grogu plushie and plastic figurine and action figure, you better get out those shows so more people start watching it and going, oh, gee, maybe I want to buy some of these toys. And you know what? If I'm going to keep buying these DVDs, maybe I should start streaming. It's been such just a bass-ackward marketing model by going to streaming and removing themselves from the physical media option. I said it back then, right? I said, you release it at the theaters, you make your money there, then you release it on physical media, you make your money there, and then you put it on your streaming service, and you make your money there.
I wonder how much money Disney Plus is making. I think this whole streaming thing has not been a win for a lot of these companies.
Nope. That's why so many have left it. That's why the day and date ended. That's why, I don't know. But Disney just, it's like they're the hard-headed cousin that, when everybody else is going, okay, it's, no, they double down and, I don't know. They're left holding the Confederate money, after the war,
Yeah, Horizon Talker says, buy it for Curse Monkey Island. All the original LucasArts IP is just sitting there, and many gamers waiting to give you money for it. Those original LucasArts IP could be turned into movies and television shows, but no one over there at Lucasfilms understands the gold mine they're sitting on. There's Maniac Mansion. There's The Dig. These were all heavily story-driven games back in the day.
The fact that they killed LucasArts tells you none of that's ever going to be touched.
Exactly. You think they would at least try to re-release them, just re-release the old games in new format. They could do that, but I don't know. Okay.
Update them for modern audiences.
No, I meant just re-release them so you can play them.
I'm telling you, that's what they would do.
All 76 titles getting removed from Disney Plus and Hulu on Friday. We're not going to read all of these, okay? Because I don't care, but I'll read you the article. David Zaslav is many things, but you can't say he isn't a bit of a trendsetter. Almost a full year after the great HBO Max calling of 2022 and the announcement that the streamer was relaunching as Max, Disney's prepping to do the same exact thing with their own twin streamers. On May 10th, Bob Iger confirmed that by the end of this calendar year, Hulu will become a tile on Disney Plus. merging one of the oldest streamers on the market. It launched in 2007 with its much younger sibling. It's a similar move to the upcoming Paramount Plus Showtime merger happening over at Paramount Global next month. As the merger approaches, Disney is going to the same playbook as those companies by removing content from both platforms in a move I refer to as part of the maturation process as we grow into a business that we had never been in. Although Disney hasn't gone as far as to shelve completed film or movie before it makes its release, its announced titles that will lead Disney Plus move, which goes into effect May 26, has raised ire from fans. In particular, they face swift backlash from planning to remove Howard, a documentary about the Little Mermaid lyricist Howard Ashman and one of the most notably gay creatives in the company's history, from the streamer. The documentary would have been removed the day the live-action version of The Little Mermaid premiered and a week before Pride Month began. Disney has since corrected course, and they announced that Howard would remain on the service and said that titles on the list removals are still being finalized. Other titles have been saved, including docuseries Spark Story, Marvel's Empower, and Marvel's Voice Rise and the Music of Wakanda Forever. I suspect that the reason they're removing that Howard documentary is because it reminds people of the old Little Mermaid.
Yes. Yep. I think you're absolutely right on that one.
I don't know if they've changed the songs for the new movie or what's going on with that. I don't know, but maybe they want people focusing on the new movie and not the classic animated movie. But
that is just a whole world of cluster frack.
But even with those titles getting saved from the graveyard, over 50 shows and movies are still on the chopping block. The list primarily consists of a mix of docu-series and reality shows like The World According to Jeff Goldblum. That sounds like something I want to watch, actually. You know? Yeah,
I guess.
Live-action children's series like Diary of a Future President, like Mighty Ducks Game Changers. That's the one that Emilio Estevez had to bow out of because he didn't want to, because I think he was against mandates.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I think that's what it was. I don't even think he was against. He might have even gotten it himself, but he was against them making the mandate on the production.
Yeah.
So he got axed over that. I think that's what happened. That was the inference I got, at least. FX drama shows like Why the Last Man and Pistol. I heard Why the Last Man was terrible. So this is not just the Disney stuff, though. This is FX. Remember, they bought 20th Century Fox. So many titles have been available on the service for an extremely short amount of time. Willow, for example, premiered on the service in November, and its finale aired in January, just 4 months before the fantasy series is set to be made completely unavailable. On Instagram, Bryan Cranston publicly urged families to watch his family film, The One and Only Ivan, before it disappears from Disney Plus forever. And keep in mind, I don't know if any of this stuff has gotten a DVD release. I know Willow certainly hadn't. And as you say often, buy physical media, correct?
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying in this case, you never got the opportunity to buy that physical media. So when it's gone, it is gone. It looks like it'll be gone forever.
So I remember you were bringing out Paramount to me in a private chat, but I made a point that, no, the Paramount shows still get released. I may not care for Discovery or Picard, but they do get physical releases. Yep. Paramount does put their stuff still do regular DVD releases, and they don't even take forever to release the stuff like Netflix used to. So I will tip my hat to Paramount with that. I'm sure Tulsa King will be worth checking out a DVD if you didn't want to subscribe to the streamer. As with HBO Max, let's take a second to mourn. We're about to lose. Here's a list of 76 titles. Okay, we're not going to read those, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
So that's not good.
No. It really is not. Right. But this is, and again, I'm going to keep, I have no problem saying I told you so, especially to Disney. But it was years ago when we said they should combine, they shouldn't have two streaming services and be competing with themselves. They should have one streaming service with everything that they got from 20th Century Fox, everything they got from the Disney vaults, and all their back catalog, everything, and you dump it all on, and they would have won the streaming wars. They would have been the go-to stream because they had all that 20th Century Fox back catalog, all of that Disney back catalog. They had the most content for the subscription dollars, and everyone would have gotten Disney first and then maybe considered one or two others. They never did that.
maybe I'm the weirdo here, but they've always made a point that it's all about making exclusive content in these things. Where I would almost think, just having access to the 20th Century Fox back catalog, having access
Exactly.
to all the classic Disney movies and shows, that would be enough to get me to subscribe to anything. But instead, they're producing all this original stuff, which is subpar, just to throw it up there.
And it forces people to go, well, if I want to see this movie or that movie, I have to buy the DVD, which I don't see a problem with, but Disney should.
Here's what I understand. Netflix used to be all about, back in the day, Netflix streaming. I know you were never a subscriber, I think, to them, but back in the day, but it was all about you just go on there, you can watch Sopranos or Breaking Bad and all these shows and all these movies. And you went there just to watch already content that was on other things. It wasn't about you going there for exclusive. It became that way when Netflix realized that all this content was going to get pulled by these companies trying to start their own streaming services. So that's when they started making the original shows like Stranger Things and stuff like that. I mean, maybe it happened a little before then, but that was...
I do like what Rosefire said. The Willow show's gone forever. Good. Nothing of value is lost. Well, and that's why they can take it as a tax write-off. So there is some value there to them, but they definitely at a loss. What they're taking, what they're claiming its value is, so that they can take a write-off for it, is definitely less than what actually went into it. Not to mention how badly it's contributed to hurting their brand. Yeah, this has been a net loss for them, and the hits just keep on coming. Yeah. So this next one's one that I kind of found not interesting. I'm actually not surprised.
Sigourney Weaver says she won't be back for Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel.
Yeah.
To be fair, she wasn't in the last. She had a cameo at the end, so here we go.
Yeah, which was enough, right? I mean, she wasn't strictly necessary. It was nice that she was there. And what is she? She lets the fans know what's going on with her character. We pretty much know where it's probably going with that character, so we kind of don't need, and let's face it, for the price tag that she probably comes with.
Yeah. We don't even know if we're going to give Bill Murray back for a Ghostbusters sequel.
I mean, remember, in right up till almost a month or two before Afterlife was supposed to be released, although it was pushed back, we didn't know about Bill Murray till last minute. But right now, it's looking like Ernie Hudson's coming back, and he seems to have either said directly or implied that Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray would be back. But who knows? That could change.
Filming is now underway on the upcoming Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel, which will bring legacy actor Ernie Hudson back as Winston Zeddemore. One character from the original films who will not be back appearing in the next sequel, Dana Barrett, played by Sigourney Weaver. Weaver tells Collider, "I wasn't asked to be in this Ghostbusters." And I think, a little of us goes a long way, Weaver adds. Sigourney Weaver's... What does that mean?
I think basically it's what I just said.
Yeah.
You got a cameo over in the last one. That's all you really needed.
Yeah. Sigourney Weaver's role in Ghostbusters franchise has become increasingly limited, but these two most recent outings first appeared as a new character in a post-credit scene for Ghostbusters Answer the Call. Oh, yikes. She more recently reprised the role of Dana Barrett in Ghostbusters Afterlife, a cameo that was also relegated to a post-credit scene. Yes, but we liked that post-credit scene.
Yeah.
Gil Keenan, Monster House Poltergeist, is directing the sequel of Ghostbusters Afterlife. The cast includes Patton Oswalt.
Oh, God, yeah.
Kumail Nanjiani, James Acaster, Emily Aylin Lind, alongside Ernie Hudson, McKenna Grace, Paul Rudd, and Carrie Coon. Jason Reitman, who directed Ghostbusters Afterlife, producing the upcoming sequel. The film is scheduled to bring Ghost back to theaters on December 20th, 2023. I just saw that Patton Oswalt thing for myself here. Well, he's funny when he's acting, right? Just not when he's outside of it. I mean... Anyway, What was I talking about here? Okay,
and I think he's just coming back as or he's coming into it as a voice actor.
Probably as a ghost or something else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fine. I mean, I don't know. I have to say, hearing that she was in Answer the Call, which is not the title of that movie, they retroactively called
Yes.
it. I think the reason why she was in that, I think all the actors contracted to be in that sequel in good faith, and it ended up being a disaster. I think they were obligated to be in that movie
Yeah,
contractually.
probably.
I think that's probably what happened because there's no reason why all these actors would have just jumped on that piece of junk. I think it was just, I think they didn't know what they were getting into. I think that's what happened there.
Yeah.
Especially as Dan Aykroyd says it. But I don't know. I'm still looking forward to a Firehouse. We'll see what happens, right?
Well, and one thing I can point out, if I'm not mistaken, Dan Aykroyd still had producer credit on that 2016. So even though he had some very negative things to say about it, um, he did, receive, financial compensation from it, such that it received, and so I'm sure that his friendship with the others was like, can you do this thing, please? When it tanks, we'll do it right. I'm guessing, this is my head canon, that something like that transpired.
Yeah, probably. So next up is your favorite subject.
Yep.
Oh, Bill Murray never commits until the last minute. I read that in an article. I believe it. All right. Just don't make a sequel to Labyrinth, anyone. Well, not without David Bowie.
That is, yeah. Good point. Good
There's no
point.
point. Without David Bowie, what's the point? I guess they could theoretically have it be a different Goblin King or something in the sequel. Jennifer, then let's not do it.
Who
That's
who owns Labyrinth or
Sony.
what?
It's
would
not
David do
Jim
it?
Henson Company owns it, but Sony distributed it. I think. I think they'd have to work with the Jim Henson Company to get it out there. So.
Yeah, I don't know.
You'd have to cast another guy as
The reason I asked was because if this was something that falls under Disney, you better believe they try to Frankenstein CG him.
Yeah, no, it's Sony, so they would probably just recast, or they could always have it be a different menace. Maybe have it be about, I don't know, Hoggle turns evil or something. No, I don't know. Let's not go there.
Whatever.
Okay, new Dungeons and Dragons book will cost 20% more starting this year. What do you think of that, huh?
So the shills are going to say, well, it's inflation, they have to. I call bullshit. This is how Hasbro operates. They're driving up the prices on everything, and they're pretty much pricing themselves out of the market. Go ahead and read the article.
Beginning with the upcoming source book, Big Me Presents Glory to the Giants, see on Amazon, physical Dungeons & Dragons books will now cost 20% more, which is the Coast announced today. Going forward, physical copies of the Dungeons & Dragons books will cost $59.95 instead of $49.95, representing the first price increase the game maker has announced in 9 years. Citing rising costs involved with creating new books and a desire to ensure future projects are the best they could be, Wizards added that the price change will not impact physical books that were released prior to the upcoming Giants expansion. It also won't impact any digital versions of the source books, which will instead retain their current MSRPs indefinitely. The Wizards confirmed that the upcoming products, like the Planescape expansion slated for an October 17th release, won't carry the new price tag. It wouldn't comment on the revised core 5e rulebooks planned for 2024. With dice, miniatures, accessories, and new rulebooks coming out regularly, the price of the tabletop hobby is already at a premium, and that's without recent subscription services like D&D Beyond asking for players to pay every month for access to digital goods and services. This price increase to future physical books is likely to raise the barrier of entry on cost-conscious players and game masters. When asked about how the price increases might impact the game's accessibility, Wizards said it expects continued backwards compatibility with existing 5e materials after the 2024 update and unchanged digital prices to help. The new price will only be for new products going forward, and the ability to carry forward existing books helps. Also, digital prices aren't increasing, a Wizard of the Coast spokesperson told IGN. While the cost of the hobby is always a hot button issue within the Dungeons and Dragons community, the price increase may come as a welcome news to third-party D&D content creators who are understandably hesitant to increase their prices beyond what Wizards charges for its books. The new price will likely make it less controversial for D&D's partners to raise prices on their products to reach parity.
I'll tell you what, though, the smart ones aren't going to. Or if they do, nothing like this.
This is a 20% increase. It's not even like a 10% increase.
This is the kind of thing where you price yourself out of the market. The whole idea behind these kinds of role-playing games is a relatively low initial investment so that you could, have pretty much unlimited gaming. It's kids with pocket money, and they're killing that. This is what so many of these entertainment industries are missing. That generational, exploit, right? You want to get the kid, it was the McDonald's thing, right? You do the Happy Meals, Ronald McDonald, all that stuff, get the kids, to buy into your brand, and then you'll have them as adults, and they'll bring their kids, and it'll be, a continuous thing. Same thing with Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever. It was the parents, that were kids. When they were kids, they got into this, they loved it, they introduced their kids to it, keep buying them the toys, take them to see the movies again, keep it going. Disney has shot themselves in that foot by putting a stopgap, saying we're going to jettison the old and never even getting the new. And this is kind of what's happening here. You don't get the younger intro audience to buy your next D&D book. So they go, I can't really afford this. This is way too expensive. And keep in mind, this isn't just about, 3 books and some dice anymore that are getting more expensive. They're all also trying to push you into their subscription service for their virtual tabletop, which nobody's fucking doing.
This is reminding me of what happened with comic books. Remember when they were in the 90s when they all became about the collector's market and making these
and they put out 25 different covers so that you had to buy the same book 25 times because you were a dumbass and you had to speculate like that?
Stan Lee complained about that in interviews later on. He was saying that this was, that the kids were not, that you needed to make it so the kids were getting into comics again, and he felt that was being, I guess they were even priced out. Is that what it was? I think.
Yep, absolutely. It used to be you'd have your pocket change from delivering newspapers. You go buy some comic books, at the end of the week. You can't do that anymore.
Or you go buy a D&D module or some dice or something. Or,
yeah. But, and it was one guy buying it to run it for his, 4 or 5 friends. It wasn't all 4 or 5 of them buying that book. So, yeah, it was tight margins. But that's just the nature of the game, pun intended. It's like every week we're going to be talking about Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro and what dumbasses they are. And honestly, it's like every article we talk about is how stupid the American business, not the American business model, but the people running businesses.
Well, let's be honest with you. These people didn't start these businesses. They inherited them. A lot of these CEOs, as they've taken over, they did not start these.
Yeah, but they are CEOs. There is a fiscal responsibility that you have. They make millions of dollars. They should earn that by making their companies as profitable as possible. And if they don't, these companies should be getting rid of these yutzes.
Yeah. I was in an RPG shop this weekend by Cedar Point and talked to the owners. They said nobody plays RPGs in their store anymore, only card games. See that?
And what card games are they playing? Because I'll bet you the number of people playing Magic the Gathering is dropping.
Well, you can't speak ill of Magic the Gathering or you get canceled, right? Isn't that a thing? Like, don't complain.
Canceled? That would be the good thing to happen. No, they send the Pinkertons after you to rough you up.
Hey, Yeah, that's not good PR for your company. Do you know what was funny? I was watching the movie.
No, they're never going to live that down either.
I was watching the movie Plane last night. Have you heard of it? It stars Gerard Butler. Have you seen it?
I know Gerard Butler, but no, I haven't heard of this movie.
It came out. Pops reviewed it. I checked it out last night. Finally, had the guy who played Luke Cage in it as well. It was a pretty decent action movie, but it starts out where he's getting on board. He's a Scottish pilot. And he's getting on board this plane, and the guy says,
Gerard Butler playing a Scotsman? Shocker.
They didn't bother having him put on the American accent for this one. So he goes in there and it's funny that the Chinese co-pilot asks him, "Oh, are you English?" "No, I wouldn't lower myself. I'm Scottish or something."
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But what did he say though? He made a point that there's a storm going overhead, and the guy said, "Oh, it's okay. It should dissipate by the time you get to it." "Well, I could fly around it, take another hour." He says, "Yeah, but how much would that cost in fuel?" So of course he flies near the storm, and I guess a lightning bolt hits the plane and knocks everything out. He has to force land it on an island somewhere. I'm not going to get details, but then what happens is you get to see back at the airplane company's headquarters, right? And they're having an emergency meeting about what happened, and the guy says, "Okay, the guy's not only trying to save the passengers or see if it's possible to save the passengers and the crew, but it's also about him doing a PR relating how this looks in the media." And he goes up to say, "Okay, so what genius told them to fly through that storm?" "Well, it's usually practice." Says, "Okay, well, that little money you saved on the fuel, you'll be lucky if that's the tip for the amount this is going to cost us."
Yeah, that's just it. For every single plane that saves fuel going through a storm, the loss of a plane and the loss of lives and all the litigation that comes out of that can bankrupt your business. Yes, that's exactly it. You've got to know, and this is why you're supposed to be making the big bucks, right? Yeah. Is to know when it's appropriate to nickel and dime, and when it's like, no, we can't afford not to do this thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a pretty good actioner, but I thought that was interesting that the PR of the guy they brought in was actually making a lot of sense for once instead of it just.
I'll tell you what. Another thing about the role-playing game industry, you've got your free RPG days. Once a year, you go to your hobby shop, and they're giving away things related to games, right? And either it's a module or it's literally the quick rules to get up and running with a system or whatever. And this is stuff that is given to the stores by the distributor or by the publisher, just to get the games out there, get them in people's hands. And look, you give away your quick rules so that people can play it. They know now, and then of course the idea is that they play the game there in the store. They either send a representative or they get people in the area that are willing to run a game for them. It's a marketing thing, right? You run that game and it's like, I really enjoy that. I think I want to get this game. I'll buy the full rules, or I'll buy a module and keep playing using these trimmed down versions. I'll buy something. And if my game group really likes this, then yeah, I'm going to have to buy the whole thing, and I'll buy some more modules and, blah, 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 blah. That's how you do it. It's just like drugs. Yeah, the first time is free, and then they gotcha,
But now they don't want to give you the free entry form.
But you know who doesn't do that? Wizards of the Coast.
They're terrible. It was awful when D&D got sold to them. Just...
I'll tell you what, when Gary Gygax let it go, it was right up there with George Lucas letting Star Wars go.
I know you got to control. They always give you the song and dance. Oh, we'll let you be a consultant in the company, and you'll be important to us. And now you're done. That happened to Nolan Bushnell, the guy that created Pong and Atari. Started Atari.
Yeah.
I think what was it? Milton Bradley bought him out and bought Atari out and said, "No, we're going to sell to us, and we'll let you stay on and still running the company. We just want to own you." And then as soon as they bought it, you're out.
Yeah. And unfortunately, they end up destroying it, and it's like that's another one of those things, like flying through the storm, right?
Yeah.
You know, you'd have been better off keeping the guy on and keeping the quality up, but you blew it. You paid all this money for something, and now you're losing it. Congratulations.
Listen to this. Critical Role is releasing 2 original RPG systems, and their paranormal investigation game sounds halfway decent. Well, here you go.
Yes, I actually have their that stream like in my to watch later. I haven't had a chance yet, but Netter and I are going to check that out. So there's another thing. Whoever it was that was asking earlier what we're watching, that's probably something that Netter and I are going to start watching. Is the new Critical Role campaign.
Well, if anything positive has come out of the situation, is at least all the different factions of the D&D community seem united, and that Wizards of the Coast is just awful right now.
I know, right? It's like
so. Put our differences aside.
Well, it's kind of like how Bud Light kind of united not only beer drinkers, but you know the new audience they were going after too. Everybody hates them. Congratulations. Way to piss off everybody.
You don't get involved in these little issues. People used to understand not to do this. You know, That's what we have. I wonder if Target's going to be learning that soon, too. All right, let's get into Gremlins. Gremlins.
Caca.
Yes. Gremlins, Secret of the Mogwai review. Max's animated origin story captures the spirit of something. Okay.
Does it though? Does it?
I'm gonna read you this person's review. I had to truncate it a little bit.
Yeah.
Joe Dante's Gremlins came out on the eve of my 7th birthday, and I was instantly smitten. I saw the movie multiple times, read various adaptations, and wore out the grooves of the series tie-in records that were distributed through Hardee's.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. Yes, I didn't have any of them because we didn't have a Hardee's near us.
Now I want to find these.
I'll bet you that you could find them on YouTube.
YouTube, yeah, like the Alf records are on.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Gizmo.
Sorry, Mexican Iron Man. Sorry. In case he listens, you know.
Okay. Gizmo, the seemingly innocent Mogwai who, through modern humanity's inability to follow 3 basic rules, helped unleash a chaotic surge of nefarious gremlins, has been a constant companion over 4 decades, serving as my frequent social media avatar. The bottom line gets the adorable zany appeal of the original movies. In the allure of Gremlins to young Daniel was something primal. The lizard brain appeal of Gizmo's cuteness and the Gremlins' Chuck Jones inspired mayhem. The subsequent appeal and countless rewatches has been different. As directed by Dante, like the cinematic spawn of Frank Capra and Roger Corman, Gremlins is simultaneously elemental and malleable. Mogwai are manifestations of repressed ego. Gremlins, the embodiment of untethered id. It's a cautionary tale about the proper treatment of animals and conscientious stewardship of nature.
It's kind of true. I mean, from a certain point of view.
I suppose. He has other points of views I don't even bother bringing up here. A warning about encroachment of technology and the fragility of human civilization. In the new batch, the far funnier, if less emotionally resonant 1990 sequel. I need to rewatch that.
Yeah.
It's probably better than I remember it being. The critique was extended to capitalism and the chaos that runs amok when you attempt to commodify anything you don't fully understand. Where Mogwai, magical creators, extraterrestrials, adorable mutants, or biological hybrids, I didn't know. I was supposed to care, so I didn't. Created by Seeing Chun, who executive produced along with Brendan Hay, Max's animated prequel Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai succeeds because although it's dedicated to giving Gizmo and his friends, both Furry and Scaly, the origin story they probably didn't require, it's more invested in telling a standalone story that captures the array of tones from the films. Secrets of the Mogwai has an all-star vocal cast and eye-catching animation style that grew on me as the 10-episode season progressed, and enough distinctive backstory details to effectively expand on the world. The story begins in the Valley of Jade, a mountainous glen populated entirely by happy Mogwai. Oh, So They're Smurfs was basically my first response to the Valley of Jade, followed by flashbacks to the mid-'80s animated Ewok series. Fortunately, the show doesn't linger or pander in this all-Mogwai world. No time in Trek, Gizmo saves his village from an eagle attack, but ends up... hold on. but ends up separated from his community. In Shanghai, circa 1920, we meet young Sam Win, Isaac Wang, sheltered by his parents, Ming Nai Wang and B.D. Wang, who run a medicine shop, are shopping for ingredients with his adventurous grandfather, James Hong. Yeah, you get James Hong again.
Yeah.
We did a good old days on him. Well, no, we did not an in remembrance. It was a living in remembrance. Let's celebrate the people who are still alive, too. Yeah, but
Yeah, I actually am kind of holding out for them to cast him in a Gorbachev biopic, because, Asian. Right? Because, Gorbachev is Asian and so is Wang. So
yeah, yes, these lovely denominations that don't necessarily make sense. Okay. Sam first encounters Gizmo, who is being presented as a mystical cat dog in a circus freak show. Grandpa, however, knows that Gizmo is and knows that bad things happen to people who aren't ready for the Mogwai. Grandpa urges Sam to return the Mogwai to the Valley of Jade, both to protect Shanghai and to keep Gizmo from falling into the hands of the evil Riley Green. Matthew Rees, who is half sorcerer, half industrialist, and aware of some particularly wicked uses of Mogwai. Traveling via train and ship and foot, Sam and Scrappy Orphan L, formerly Green's indentured servant, look to transport Gizmo to safety, encountering supernatural and spiritual forces along the way. Oh, and yes, Gizmo gets a little damp, and there are some post-midnight snacks. There's some very quickly Gremlins involved as well. Okay, series hailing from Warner Bros. Animation and Television, with Steven Spielberg as an executive producer and Dante's consulting producer, offers explanations of where the Mogwai came from and expands on the rules for Mogwai maintenance. But I'm ultimately not sure how much the expanded mythos really adds. It even probably loses a little from over-reliance on magic and things that can only be justified by or through magic. Yeah, it goes on to say, Secrets of the Mogwai isn't as scary as the first Gremlins movie, nor as giddy as the treatment and the violently cartoonishly havoc that the Gremlins wreak, but it has some emotional gravity and no lack of lurid green viscera when creatures are squashed and chopped to bits. Of course, the animated format makes it easy to just giggle at the spectacle of a pulverized gremlin, harder to feel real concern for Gizmo, the human characters, when they're in jeopardy. That just means it's less likely to traumatize younger viewers than the original movie did, not that it's intended exclusively for kids. All right, so what have you been hearing about this show?
Well, actually, I think longest running superhero RPG on Earth, who you really should subscribe to, by the way. He's got some great content relating the stories of his long running RPG. Is saying, I'm guessing they don't have much rain or sun in the Valley of Jade. Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. Tom Connors over at Midnight's Edge is the only one that I've heard anything like commentary on this, and he said that there's this scene early on in like the first episode or whatever where Gizmo is outside in the middle of the day under a tree, and apparently that's enough shade for him to,
yes,
and then when they want to have him leave that shade, he gets direct sunlight. So, bright light, it's no.
Or he's on the theater stage with a covering over him, so it's okay. Yes, I did notice that. He did finally say that. It's like, did they forget the rule about the bright light? And then someone tries taking a picture of him with a flash. He goes, bright light, okay. But, yeah, it's a little fast and loose. It's like on Angel when he would just go outside, pull his jacket over his head, I mean,
well, but at least when they did that, it was usually Spike doing that. And there'd be like smoke coming out from underneath it, and he'd be running,
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this kids cartoon, which is what it is. It's a kids cartoon.
Yeah.
I watched one episode so far. I don't have an opinion yet. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, this is
it's looking good.
This is one of those examples of not understanding your audience.
Yeah.
This was not made for kids. It had a certain amount of kid appeal at a time, in that pre-PG-13 era, where this probably should have been a PG-13 film, but we didn't have that yet, so it came out as PG, so kids did see it. But it was pretty intense.
What I don't understand is with the popularity of stuff like Stranger Things, why didn't they just make a in Cobra Kai,
Yeah.
another 80s throwback.
Yeah.
An 80s throwback series either taking place today
Yeah.
and it being about, like the Gremlins coming back, or it could be maybe just set it in the 80s again. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I mean,
I got no dog in this hunt. Just whatever.
It'll probably be
happens.
forgotten. I guess. I don't know if it's no good. I'll watch a couple more episodes, see if it gets better. It's not terrible as it is now. So, some people hate the animation style. I think someone was making a point about that. Here's the problem: we're in an era where nobody wants to do traditionally 2D animated cartoons anymore. In fact, I don't even know if they even have the means to do them. So they do things CG, but they try to still give them a 2D look. I think that's what's going on here.
Can't you have AI do it?
Don't joke. Did you know there's a famous scene of Hayao Miyazaki, the great Japanese animation director from Studio Ghibli, and he's in a room with some younger guys, and they're like, he's looking at this horrifying thing that a computer did of like this body scrawling on the floor, and the guys, and he thought it was terrible, and he was saying, "What is your goal with this program?" And that one of the younger animators says, "We want to make a computer that can animate movies for us." And he was horrified by that because he is a very traditional guy. He was doing everything by hand. Even now, he does everything by hand.
Yeah.
And he was like, "We're losing faith in ourselves." He just had a sigh. It's a clip you can watch on YouTube. But dude, I was just going to suggest they should give Gotten It Stranger Things guys to do a Gremlin series. Yeah. That might have been the thing to do. I don't know. Okay, so. Moving right along and feeling fancy free, unless you're the Muppets, then you're not.
Yeah, the Muppets. Moving right along, footloose and fancy free.
Apparently, they did a new Muppets movie or television series for Disney Plus, and it has what's her name? Who had that Superwoman, the one who had the talk show? You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Okay, it's not good. Quentin Tarantino says Ryan Reynolds may earn $50 million for a Netflix movie, but streaming movies don't exist in the zeitgeist. It's almost like they don't even exist.
Where have I heard that before in the past hour and a half?
Did I say that?
I said something very close to it.
Director Quentin Tarantino criticized movies made for streaming services like Netflix. He said that Ryan Reynolds' Netflix movies don't exist in the zeitgeist. Tarantino said that the pandemic hurried everything along. Those are the talking points. And now I'm going to expand on those. Okay, Quentin Tarantino, now the article expands on this. Quentin Tarantino is seemingly stepping away from the big screen after his next project. The Movie Critic, which he recently teased, is about a journalist who used to write for adult magazines in the 1970s. Speaking to the Deadline in an interview published Thursday, Tarantino suggested that his departure from feature filmmaking is in part because of how streaming services have drastically changed the movie industry. It isn't the first time the Kill Bill director has criticized the state of filmmaking at the moment, previously calling the current landscape the worst in Hollywood history. Tarantino said that he doesn't like working for diminishing returns and thinks it's a good time to stop making feature films because he doesn't want to have to make movies for a streaming service. And I mean, now is a good time because, I mean, what even is a motion picture anymore? It is just something they show on Apple. That would be diminishing returns, he said. The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood director went on to say that movies made for streaming aren't recognizable and point at Ryan Reynolds' work at Netflix as an example. He said, I mean, and I'm not picking on anybody, but apparently for Netflix, Ryan Reynolds has made $50 million on his movie and $50 million on that movie, and $50 million on the next movie for them. I don't know what any of these movies are. I've never seen them. Have you? Ryan Reynolds has worked with multiple streamers in recent years, appearing in Six Underground, Red Notice, and The Adam Project for Netflix, and Spirited for Apple TV+. Tarantino said that he doesn't believe streaming movies exist in the zeitgeist, adding, it's almost like they don't even exist. The director said he isn't being negative about how the industry has changed, noting that the pandemic has influenced the rise of streaming movies. Well, I don't think I'm negative about it. I think it had been going that way, and the pandemic hurried everything along, you know. What do you think?
I agree 100%. It's exactly what I said. How do you consider, a show in a fandom to be canon if you're playing it behind a paywall on a exclusive streaming service and you never release it on physical media so that the world doesn't get to see it. Only the small percentage of that population that subscribes to your.
It's like people who went to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Apparently, there were references to the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which you only saw if you had Disney Plus.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And people, I'm sorry, you are not going to make people go and subscribe to you doing that. All you're going to do is say, oh, obviously I can't watch these movies anymore because I won't understand what the fuck's going on. I didn't see the WandaVision show, and I didn't watch Loki, and so I can't follow any of this Marvel crap anymore. I don't know what they're doing anymore.
And even HBO, when they would have a new season of like Game of Thrones, you could either subscribe to HBO, or you could buy a digital version at least, unless you wanted to wait for the physical edition to come out a few months later.
Yeah, a year later you could get the whole season on DVD, which until it went to shit, that's what Netter and I were doing.
Yeah, you could go ahead and get them, and they would usually release stuff before the new season. Netflix was following that model for a little while. I don't know that they still are anymore. I don't know if they've given up on DVD completely, but I know that they were doing
They will as of September. That is when I will end my my service with them, because I won't be able to get DVDs from them anymore.
But I mean, like physical copies of like Stranger Things or something. Like, remember?
Oh yeah, I've gotten every season of Stranger Things up to this point. They haven't stopped that yet.
Okay, because I know with the Daredevil series, I don't know if they ever finished that on DVD or not when they were putting that out. And then of course Disney has it, so we may never see it get a release again.
But he's absolutely right. This is the same thing I was saying before. You put it out to the general public through the cinema. Then you put it out in physical media. Then you put it out on your streaming service. And he's not wrong about how they wanted to. But see, yes, he's right that they were going to start introducing streaming services. But I think I'd like to believe he's wrong in the assertion that this was the way they were going. I don't think this was the original intent. The original intent was, we're getting their money when they go to the theater. We're getting their money when they buy the DVD. We're getting licensing when it goes out on, commercial television or someone else's streaming service. We could also be getting another revenue stream by having our own proprietary stream where it will then reside forever. If you don't already have your own copy, or you don't feel like pulling it out and it just happens to be on or whatever, you just queue it up and watch it, But no, that I think that's what the original idea was. You always want additional revenue streams. You don't want to throw away revenue streams for one.
But does streaming even make revenue, though? That's what I'm asking. I mean,
it's starting to look like not really.
Look at the Tomorrow War. Did you see the Tomorrow War? It was on Amazon Prime streaming. You have Amazon Prime streaming.
Yeah, but I don't really watch it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is supposed to be a big
And how
deal.
am I supposed to... See, that's just it. How am I supposed to know about it? How are they advertising it? How do they get the information out? I'm not going to a cinema where I see coming attractions, right? I'm not even watching network television anymore to see commercials.
You have Chris Pratt was in it, as was J.K. Simmons. They were in the Tomorrow War. Yvonne Strahovski, from the show Chuck, she was in it too. And I don't think anybody went to see this, and I've not heard anybody ever mention that they saw it. You think this is a big deal release?
See, that is the funny thing. It not only is it not in the zeitgeist because not everyone is subscribing to their service, even the people subscribing to these services, it's not in their zeitgeist because they didn't know about it.
Yeah. Because I'm telling you, I would figure, okay, well, they're not watching this stuff because they're not subscribed to Disney Plus or something. But a lot of people, I've talked to people who pay for the Prime, and they're like, you have access to Prime streaming, and they're like, what, I do?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, you get free movies and TV shows through Prime.
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't realize that, or they do have it, or they don't watch it, like yourself. Like, you didn't even know this Tomorrow War existed, did you?
Yeah.
Like, came out
No,
last summer. Like,
not at all.
they're treating it like a summer blockbuster. You don't have to go. There was another one with Kate Beckinsale where she was like, she had anger issues, but she got power from her anger or something. I mean, Stanley Tucci was in it. That was out, but again, I don't think anybody is watching these movies that come to the streaming services, or at least they're not talked about. Like,
And I'll tell you what, if I'm going to just go to a streaming service just to see what is on, it's going to be a free one like Tubi. That's I don't know. But again, even on Tubi, there's so much there. It's like there's a bunch of crap, and I don't know what's good and what's not. I really go, when I see Big Al, for example, do a review on something, if he liked it and it sounds interesting, I go, okay, well, I guess I'll go check that out,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's. I agree with him 100%. He's right, and I think most of the people that are the creatives in the industry know this, but the executives haven't learned because they've been insulated from the problems of the companies that are literally burning around their ears.
Embracer stock drops 40%.
Yeah, this one's a little bit outside my wheelhouse. I was counting on you to talk me through this one.
I don't think anybody knows what's going on. We've talked about Embracer Group before. Remember, they bought Lord of the Rings, they bought Lara Croft Tomb Raider, and we're wondering, well, who owns Lord of the Rings? Remember, this was a big discussion we had back then. Does Amazon own it? Does New Line own it? Is Embracer the distributor of these rights? Like, do they have everything and they decide who gets the book rights, who gets this rights? Let's see. Embracer Group stock drops 40% after $2 billion mystery deal self-destructs. What on earth just happened with Embracer Group? It's a name you've been hearing more and more lately, as the Swedish company has been scooping up developers and IPs, and as such is now the owner of Tomb Raider, Dead Island, Lord of the Rings games, and big studios like Borderlands, Gearbox. But now something disastrous and mysterious just happened. Embracer was about to embark on some sort of industry mega deal to the tune of $2 billion. Then late last night, it collapsed, which Embracer said was a shock to them, and the news sent their stock crashing at full 40%. All documentation was finalized and ready to go as of yesterday. Embracer CEO Lars Wingefors told investors this morning, "We asked for the execution of the agreement before our Q4 announcement. However, late last night, we received a negative outcome from the counterparty. No one seems to know who this deal was supposed to be with. Embracer bought Borderlands publisher Gearbox for $1.3 billion back in 2021. They also bought Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal, along with IPs like Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, and Tomb Raider for just $300 million in 2022. So the $2 billion, it had to have been something big. Even Sony paid a little under double for Bungie at $3.6 million, and one of their biggest deals to date. As Embracer Group has always been scooping up studios and properties on a vast spending spree, I always got the impression their eyes might have been a little bigger than their stomach. These acquisitions have not really proven themselves fruitful this early, and they kept adding more and more to the plate. Here it appears they got over their skis somehow, though the narrative is that the partner ended up essentially betraying them in some way. While today we don't know who that partner was supposed to be, it seems likely that we will find out eventually. And again, I'm not sure if this was supposed to be a full acquisition or some sort of massive licensing thing or what. The news also came with a big earnings forecast downgrade. It's unclear where Embracer goes from here, or if there's any hope to salvage the deal in some capacity. It sure does not seem like it, and hearing the CEO talk about it after the fact is actually kind of hard to watch. Embracer may no longer be on the spending spree it once had after this, having lost 40% of its value instantly, something you just do not see in this industry so often. We'll see how this unfolds. Right now, it's looking very, very bad. So we don't know what happened. I don't know who this deal was with. I do know that I'm starting to think that Embracer was spending a lot of money it didn't have or couldn't afford to be buying up all these IPs.
Very possibly, yeah. That does sound reasonable.
Their big game that was supposed to be a big hit.
I mean, who do they think they are? Disney?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. Are there any government bodies watching this stuff? They were all over Microsoft for trying to buy Activision, which I think finally went through. But Embracer can do whatever it wants, and they're ignored. And now I don't know what they're losing here. I do know that the Saints Row reboot they had a lot pinned on that. Remember Saints Row? They were going to make a lot of money off the Saints Row, and it was a disaster. And did terribly, and it was a buggy mess, and it was very had that very woke style humor in it.
Was this the same company that did that that Gollum based Lord of the Rings game?
I don't know. I just was reading about that today. I figured it was too late to put it on this. Maybe next week we'll talk about that. I want to say that was Warner Brothers Interactive making that game. The same company did Harry Potter. But then again, it could have been somebody else. Like I said, Embracer says it has all the rights to Lord of the Rings and video games. I should find out who did Gollum. Apparently, that's a huge disaster. What I'm hearing. The Lord of the Rings Gollum video game. Let me look that up real quick. That was made by developers. Who's the publisher? Oh, this isn't Warner Brothers. Okay, we'll talk about this next week.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I thought this might have been like a Warner Brothers release game, but again, maybe this is under. I'm wondering this. I don't know. We'll find out more next week for y'all. Okay, but yeah, this does not look good.
Yeah, this is kind of a new one on me. Thank you, Boosh, for saying. I haven't been my usual bubbly self. I've been making etouffee. And then he proceeds to give the recipe. So we got a recipe in the chat. That's a new one. I'm not mad about it. That's a good thing. Yeah, and Netter is talking about Ouija Shark, as Big Al is often recommending. I'll actually make a recommendation for a film for you guys. You like scary movies? Go to Tubi, which is absolutely free, and check out a movie called Bed Rest from 2022. Honestly, it's not quite what I was expecting. I thought it was coming off. I assumed that it was kind of the Babadook, but like a low rent version. But it's actually better than that. I mean, not better than the Babadook. I mean, it's different. So it's better than you'd think.
What's it called?
Bed Rest. It's about a woman who she's previously lost a child. She had a miscarriage, and now a couple of years later they're trying again. She has a bit of an accident. She's okay, the baby's okay, but she's got to be on bed rest for 2 months just to be on the safe side. And then they're in a new house. She starts to see ghosts, but she had also had a mental break after losing the first child, so they're blaming it on that. And yeah. So I don't want to give away any more than that, but it was actually pretty good.
All right. Well, sounds pretty good, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'll try to give that a look when I get a chance. Apparently, there's something on Tubi called Stepmother or Stepmom. Almost. I don't know.
Don't know, but as I was going through Tubi today, I did see that Tubi has a lot of, like Netflix does. What do they call that? Their own content that they made.
Yeah, this was an original one for that, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna check that out.
So I will have to look into that. So.
But yeah, I don't know what's going on with Embracer. Follow us along. I do wonder if they were tied to that Gollum game, but apparently this is something else. They were trying to buy something for $2 billion. Something fell through, and I don't know why they lost 40% of their value. I don't know. Oh, Leia Rose, if I didn't say hi to you tonight, I apologize, but hello now. I know we're wrapping up the stream. I'm trying to think though. I'll look into that Gollum story for next week. It's apparently a disaster though. Like
that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
And at first I thought, WB Games, what are you doing? You just put out the Harry Potter game that came to great acclaim, and now you're phoning it in on Gollum. But I don't think they were the ones that made this.
Oh, that would explain a lot then. Okay, fair enough.
Which is odd, because it looks like... Does it look like the Peter Jackson Gollum?
No, it looks weird.
This is some other... Okay, so Embracer licensed this out to somebody else. Because remember they said they had the rights to Lord of the Rings video. I'll find out. I'm going to see how this ties to Embracer. All right, so yeah, that about wraps it up. Last call with Troy Pacelli. I finished cleaning my office. Oh,
yeah. This is the one time where Netter is watching, but she wasn't actually in the room with me. She's actually up in her office.
It is spring cleaning today.
It literally is spring cleaning today. Yeah.
Speaking of, well, we'll get to the last call in a minute. I'll talk about what's coming up this week. We have, I'm going to be on a stream with Mr. Matchstick. It's another Topic Thunder.
Mr. Matchstick, are you still here? Can you drop that link for us?
If you can't, I'll go ahead and post you at least your channel page.
Yeah.
And it is Char's Counterattack.
What is it again? What's it called?
Mobile Suit Gundam, Char's Counterattack.
Char
Aznavour has now taken over control of Neo Zeon and has declared war on the Earth. He has decided that humanity needs to move into the stars, so he's going to send a huge asteroid powered by boosters into the Earth to start a nuclear winter, forcing the human race off the planet once and for all. And we'll all live in space. What do you think of that idea, huh?
That sounds horrific.
You don't like that?
No. Living in space is not something to look forward to. That is, for all the sci-fi that we enjoy, the reality of living in space is brittle bones and muscle atrophy and, loss of being able to breathe instantaneously.
Well, they have colonies now that can replicate, the Earth or whatever. Anyway, but what was I going to tell you, though? It's funny, on the cartoon Phantom 2040, there were people that lived in space, and when the bad guy came to Earth from this colony, who wanted nothing to do with the Earth or whatever, he came to Earth, he had to be in like this kind of suit to allow him to walk on the Earth because he had no muscle definition. Do you understand?
Yeah.
He was so brittle at that point, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Oh, so that's actually part of the story. I wasn't even far off.
No, that was in Phantom 2040.
Oh, Phantom 20. Okay.
The Phantom comic strip.
Yeah.
Phantom 2040 was like a cyberpunk cartoon based off of like what was the Phantom going to be like in 2040.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And it was interesting because it was like taking place in the future. But no, in Mobile Suit Gundam, you have space colonies that can, they have artificial gravity. It's kind of like what you saw at the end of the movie Interstellar. You ever see Interstellar?
No, but I know the premise.
How they finally achieved the artificial gravity, because that was the whole problem with Interstellar. The Earth is dying.
Yeah.
And they have to figure out a way to make the human race survive. But then finally, the guy's daughter, spoiling alert, she manages to figure out the solution to artificial gravity. And if they can figure out the solution to artificial gravity, then people can go live in space. That was the problem.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, they're still wrestling with that. And
yeah,
all the options we've come up with still have problems.
Don't send an artificial asteroid into the Earth. Right? Well, it's not an artificial asteroid. The asteroid is real. They just attached boosters to it.
Why do you want to send it? Oh, yeah, right, to destroy.
He wanted the human race to finally, I'm done. I'm done with you being on the Earth. Okay.
Well, that is an effective way to do it, I suppose.
And you know what I will do after the stream? I will post a link in my community page, which Troy suggests I do more of.
Yeah.
So I will make a point that I will be on Matchstick Stream for the Topic Thunder Char's Counterattack.
There you go.
So go ahead. I will post a link to his channel right here. But pretty good animated movie back in the day. I mean, you kind of have to watch some of Mobile Suit Gundam to get what's going on, though. It's one of those.
Sure.
Next up is, in fact, I will say this about the Star Trek movies, like Star Trek 2. You didn't necessarily have to watch the TV series to kind of get up to speed in that.
That's true. That is true.
All right, Wednesday, The Living Daylights. Wednesday is with soundtracks of Birdman I'll be on with. It will be The Living Daylights. rewatch. Timothy Dalton as James Bond 007.
Yep,
So
yep.
You can, you're pasting links. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I at least can do this much.
All right, and let's see on
Thursday.
Natters
Network.
Mhm.
At the previously mentioned Adega Outlaw. She will be interviewing him and giving away one of his books, The Blood Witch. So you got to listen live though if you're interested in getting one of those. So there you go.
Be sure to tune into that.
Yeah.
Friday, it's a last call. And know what you're doing yet, or is it?
I have no idea, but my link is below. Make sure you just subscribe, and I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out before Friday, I'm sure.
It'll be a discussion on what we would do if we were doing a proper Willow sequel and our 6-season strategy for it. I'm kidding.
Right.
Willow's done. Time to move on. And then Saturday, what do you have? Rewatch on Big Al's channel?
Yep, we're over on Big Al's. Support your local sheriff. He says it's James Garner June, but that just means it's Western June, in my opinion. So yeah, that is Saturday. 9 Central, 10 Eastern, and I guess that brings us around to next week with Unscripted with Deleted Scenes, episode 16, topic to be decided. Just make sure you're subscribed to Deleted Scenes.
Yeah, there's a link to his channel in the description below, and also in what Troy just posted.
Yeah,
and that's for
either way.
Oh, it cut off my thing for Big Al. Oh well, you should be subscribed to Big Al if you're not already.
That's okay. I got the link just above. Oh wait, didn't put the link.
You didn't put
I'm
your
sorry.
link up there either. Your channel.
Jeez,
So
we're
again,
both of us are goofs.
Look in the description. It's a weird weekend. Troy was having computer issues, and I was having moving. We got it done. Did you like my thumbnail, by the way?
You did a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. Not quite as polished as yours, but I think it turned out all right. Did you like the fistful of cash next to the D&D source book?
I did. I caught that. And what I loved about it was the original 3.0 edition, and I'm like, I had that book. No, I still do.
And then I had the Ghostbusters sign, and I don't know where I got this from, but it was like doing a shrug, and you see Sigourney Weaver next to it. And of course, rest in peace for Ray Stevenson and Tina Turner.
Yeah.
Big losses tonight. But I'm sure Big Al will probably having a Beyond Thunderdome rewatch at some point.
Oh, good point. Yeah. That's true.
But Deleted Scenes, check his channel out. His link is also in the description if you want to check out his stream from earlier tonight.
Yep.
And anything else you got going on next weekend beyond anybody else's channel, Troy?
No, I don't think I have any other guest appearances coming up this week. I am celebrating today my 2-year anniversary being on Twitter, which that's an anniversary. I think it's probably right up there with the first time I went poop in the toilet like a big boy. So something to be proud of, I guess.
That'll be next week's good old days. Troy.
Oh my gosh!
Remember in Full House they had some kind of potty machine. You'd get a cookie if you did the flush properly or something.
Oh, when they were trying to teach the little girl, she was having a hard time with that.
How did I watch so many seasons of Full House? You know how? You know why it was in the zeitgeist? Because it was on regular TV.
Because it was on regular TV, and everybody watched it on that night at the same time, and then you got together at school the next day and talked about it. And if you missed it, you were the odd man out, and you didn't have anything to contribute.
You know whose streaming stuff is still in the zeitgeist? Not so much the movies it puts out, but the Netflix television series. They get in the zeitgeist.
They do, only because they're that good, and they get that word of mouth, so people get interested.
Like
and if you're not,
and
if you're not subscribing to Netflix, you can buy the DVDs.
True. All right. Well, y'all have a good night. Looks like we finished in record time tonight. It's always when I have a day off the next day.
Oh, there you go.
I always it's never overdone when I have to get up at 6 a.m. or something. Okay, all right.
There you
Catch you
go.
guys later. Bye.
Bye,
What's
everyone.
this? Hold on.
What's
No,
what?
the first poo is great for the parents. Twitter anniversary is like the first time picking up your dog's poo. Well, good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair too. Okay, good way to look at it.
On that note, we will end the broadcast. Good night, everybody.